I stood in front of my closet, contemplating whether I should even bother going out tonight. My friends have been pestering me all week to join them at this new club downtown, but the thought of being swarmed by guys again made my stomach churn. "Come on, Lena," I muttered to myself, running my fingers through my long black hair. "You can't hide forever." I pulled out a sleek black dress that hugged my curves and slipped it on. As I gazed at my reflection, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of pride and anxiety. At 5'10", I towered over most women, and my Chinese features stood out in a sea of faces. It was a blessing and a curse. My phone buzzed with a text from my friend Mia. "We're heading out in 30. You better be ready." I sighed, applying a touch of lipstick. There was no backing out now. An hour later, I found myself at the entrance of the club, the bass already pulsing through my body. As soon as I stepped inside, I felt the familiar weight of eyes on me. It was like a spotlight had suddenly been turned on, and I was center stage. "Lena!" Mia shouted over the music, waving me over to our group. I tried to make my way through the crowd, but it was like swimming upstream. "Hey there, beautiful. Can I buy you a drink?" A guy materialized in front of me, his eyes roving over my body. "No, thank you," I said politely, trying to sidestep him. But he wasn't alone. Within minutes, I was surrounded by a small group of men, all vying for my attention. Their cologne mixed with the smell of alcohol, making me feel claustrophobic. "Guys, please," I said, my voice barely audible over the music. "I'm just trying to get to my friends." One particularly persistent guy placed his hand on my waist. "Come on, just one dance." I tensed, feeling my heart rate spike. This was exactly why I hated coming out. My height and looks, which I usually took pride in, now felt like a target on my back. Suddenly, I felt a hand grab mine. It was Mia, her face a mix of concern and determination. "There you are. We've been looking everywhere for you." She pulled me through the crowd, using her petite frame to weave between people. When we finally reached our group, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "You okay?" Mia asked, handing me a glass of water. I nodded, grateful for the rescue. "Yeah, just the usual." As I sipped my water, I couldn't help but feel a pang of envy, watching my friends dance carefree. They didn't have to worry about being constantly approached or touched without permission. For them, a night out was just fun. For me, it was a minefield of unwanted attention and uncomfortable situations. A week later, I hesitated when Simon invited me to the club. Normally, I'd avoid these places like the plague, but there was something about him that made me throw caution to the wind. His confidence, his dominance, it drew me in like a moth to a flame. "Sure, I'd love to," I heard myself say, surprising even myself. As I got ready that evening, I felt a mix of excitement and nerves. I slipped on a short skirt that showed off my long legs, paired it with a snug t-shirt, and stepped into my highest heels. Looking in the mirror, I felt exposed yet powerful. Simon brought out a side of me I rarely let show. The club's neon lights pulsed as I approached the entrance. My eyes scanned the crowd, but no sign of Simon. Instead, a stocky guy waved at me. "Lena, over here!" I squinted, trying to place him. Mark? Simon's friend? We'd met briefly once before. "Hey," I said, my voice barely audible over the thumping bass. "Is Simon here?" Mark shook his head. "Not yet, but he's on his way. Told me to keep you company." We stood in awkward silence, both clearly out of our element without Simon as a buffer. I checked my phone, willing it to buzz with a message. "So, you come here often?" Mark attempted. I almost laughed. "God, no, this isn't really my scene." "Yeah, me neither," he admitted. "Simon dragged me along." Just as the silence threatened to swallow us whole, a familiar voice cut through the noise. "There you are." Simon appeared looking effortlessly cool in dark jeans and a fitted shirt. He nodded at Mark before turning his full attention to me, his eyes racked over my outfit, a smirk playing on his lips. "You look good enough to eat," he murmured, his hand finding the small of my back. I felt myself relax into his touch, grateful for his steadying presence. "Let's head in," Simon said, guiding me towards the entrance. Mark trailed behind us as we pushed through the crowd. Inside, the music was deafening, bodies pressed against each other on the dance floor, a writhing mass of sweat and desire. Normally, this would set my teeth on edge, but with Simon's arm around me, I felt oddly safe. He leaned in close, his breath hot on my ear. "Want a drink?" I nodded, and he steered us towards the bar. As we waited to order, his hands never left me. A possessive grip on my hip, fingers trailing along my arm. It was like he was marking his territory, and part of me loved it. Standing in line for drinks, Simon's hand has already found a firm place on my ass, and it's like he's staking his claim. His fingers occasionally slip under my skirt, sending shivers up my spine. "You know you belong to me tonight, right?" he murmurs into my ear, his breath warm and intoxicating. Mark, lingering nearby, watches Simon's display with a smirk. "You too look cozy," he remarks, sliding his arm around my shoulders. It's oddly intimate for someone I barely know, and it blurs the line between Simon's possessiveness and Mark's intrusiveness. The club pounds with bass, lights flashing in hypnotic sequences. We move into the Cube, the loudest, darkest room in the place. The music is so intense I can feel it vibrating through my entire body. Simon's touch becomes more overt, unapologetically sliding over my body despite the public setting. His fingers trace circles on my thighs, and he pulls me close, as if daring anyone to interfere. Mark doesn't drift far. His presence is like a shadow, ever close, his touches growing bolder. A hand rests on the small of my back, then slides lower, joining Simon's in this possessive dance. I try to focus on Simon, but Mark's proximity creates an electric tension. "I'll be right back. Don't get too cozy without me," Simon says, a teasing glint in his eyes before he heads to the restroom. The moment he's gone, Mark steps in closer, his hand pressing against my lower back. "Looks like it's just us now," he murmurs, his tone suggestive. Heat rushes to my face as Mark's hands become more explorative, gliding under my skirt and onto my chest. A part of me wants to push him away, but another part, driven by curiosity and the intoxicating thrill of submission, lets it happen. His fingers slip inside my panties, a bold move that sends a jolt through me. Our eyes meet briefly, awareness flickering, and I push his hand away, straightening my clothes. But then, in a whirlwind of misjudgment, I lean into him, our lips locking in a fierce kiss. It's brief, but loaded with intensity. Simon returns, barely acknowledging the charged shift between Mark and me. "I'm meeting up with 2 friends. Be good." He gives me a look that's both a warning and a promise, before disappearing into the crowd. Mark wastes no time, stepping back into Simon's place behind me. The music slams against my senses, merging with the rush of Mark's assertive touch. His hands slide up my shirt. We kiss again, longer this time, as if barriers disintegrating right there on the dance floor. "Did you miss me?" Mark's teasing isn't lost on me as his hands continue to explore. Confusion mixes with the fun, heating my body. I let out a shaky breath, caught in the tumultuous blend of emotions. The dance floor thins as the night goes on. Mark pulls back slightly, leaning close to my ear. "Go to the restroom and take off your panties," he commands, his voice firm, leaving no room for protest. Shock holds me for a beat, but the command undoes my resistance. Nodding almost imperceptibly, I slip away to the restroom like a puppet on strings. Once there, I remove my panties, the fabric feeling suddenly foreign. Returning to the dance floor, Mark's waiting, his eyes gleaming. He leads me to a shadowy corner, his hands resuming their exploration with a renewed vigor. My head spins, unable to fathom how things escalated so quickly, but also unable to stop it. Back on the dance floor, Mark raises my shirt, exposing me further. His hands claim my breasts, squeezing and playing, while I let him, craving the dominance with a fervency that surprises even me. Simon fails to show up again, and Mark leans in close. "Let's get you home," he offers, his control undeniable. The drive is a blur, and before I know it, we're at my apartment, a silent agreement hanging between us. The night culminates in a final encounter, more intense and consuming than I could have anticipated. As he leaves, he slips his number into my hand. "Don't call, I'll come to you," he warns, his tone final. Lying alone after, the conflicting emotions flood back, disgust mingled with fun. The night haunts me, leaving me torn between the desire for control and the ache for dominance that Mark awakened.
Hey everyone, if you found this story gripping and want to hear more crazy ones like this, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more jaw-dropping tales every week. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an update. If you have your own wild stories to share or ideas you'd like us to bring to life, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Thanks for watching.